Well, welcome everyone. I'm excited to be here and just a quick tech check. Everybody can hear me and see my slide. I believe everything is good with that, but excellent. Perfect. Thanks to everybody who has joined. I know everybody has busy and full schedules on a Monday, but I appreciate your time to be able to just pause for a moment and talk about allyship and the connection with mental health. As you probably saw in the calendar invite, this might be a new idea, but actually it maps back to something that a bigger idea that has come from a long, long time ago. And I wanted to take you on that journey. All right, so to begin, I actually wanted to ask everybody here this thought question. And that is, what do these two people have in common? So the first person is here. And then the second person is there. And again, the question or the thought question is, what do these people have in common? And so while you're thinking about that, I wanted to officially introduce myself. My name is Larry Green. I work in RUS, Real Estate and Workplace Services. I work in the Health and Performance team. And I sit at the intersectionality of holistic health and business enablement. And our goal is to create and work with you to create flourishing impact and well-being. Now, as you see the different words that are popping up, these are just different examples and highlights of my intersectionality. Like all of you, there are many different elements to who we are. And as you look at me, you can see some things about me, but as you can see by the other words that you see on the slide, there are many different other things that are about me. And so the idea of this is just to introduce myself quickly, but it's also a reminder that all of us have a number of different elements, and we should keep that in mind when we're working with each other, thinking about each other, considering each other from a holistic lens, because all these different elements contribute to our respective journeys, and all these different elements contribute to how we show up. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where I'm from. So I'm from the East Coast. I'm from Virginia. Charlottesville, Virginia is where I'm from. To any East Coast folks in the house, it's a shout out to you from there, or any Virginia folks in the house. That's where I'm from. And Virginia, especially Charlottesville, is known as the land of Thomas Jefferson. He's the author of the Declaration of Independence, the third president of the United States. And if any of you are into Hamilton, the play, he's one of the central characters in Hamilton, like a person with the different tensions between Hamilton and Jefferson. But that's Thomas Jefferson from my hometown. Charlottesville is also the home of the University of Virginia. It's one of the top schools in the country for academic excellence, sports, as well as progressive culture. I consider UVA as the nickname as my hometown school. I actually went to college at the Naval Academy. I'm just a couple hours away in Annapolis, Maryland, but UVA is my hometown school. Also with the state of Virginia and in Charlottesville, there's the Robert E. Lee statue. This is one of the many different monuments and statues all over the South. Confederate General Robert E. Lee from the U.S. Civil War. And again, this is one of many statutes and monuments that are, dedicated or highlighting the Confederacy and that history. And this is also a symbol of the ongoing and underlying tension that comes from just the Southern experience of living in the South. Is it a celebration of Southern heritage or a perpetuation of hate? And this underlying tension boiled over in 2017 into a big ugly thing with the Unite the Right rally that happened in Charlottesville. It was a rally that actually turned into a pretty bad riot that happened there. This is a quick snapshot of some of the students that were protesting. And this is probably the nicest picture that I could actually show on this presentation. It got really, really bad. It was international news that was there, and that was in my hometown. Growing up in Charlottesville, I actually remember that statue. It was right next to the library, and I would walk by it all the time, and it's just a part of life there. So now back to our thought question. What do these people have in common? Wonder if you have any thoughts. Just keep them to yourself for now, but I got a couple hints for you. See if these are helpful, and they may or may not be helpful. So this one here is super predator. So in the mid 1990s, the American government described people who looked like me, that had the same physical correct characteristics as what you see here, and had my culture as a super predator, a menace to society. A super predator is someone to be feared. A super predator has nothing good to offer society. In my experience, I was faced with the facts that my chances of being incarcerated were much higher or disproportionate to others who didn't look like me. I would also have limited access to opportunities. I would also experience microaggressions in a number of different ways and situations that happen even to this day. So instead of being a predator or super predator, in a way, I felt like the prey. So that's one hint. And now this other hint is the phrase "try that in a small town." This is a popular country music song written by Jason Aldean. The music video for it was released earlier this summer, a couple months ago, and it was it was a hit. Went very, very viral. And it was viral because of the music itself and all of that, but there was a big underlying conversation going on around this song. And so the overall sentiment that's based on the lyrics, the discussion that's happening out there, and the controversy that's out there is basically this. It's seen as an attack on the progressive agenda by conservatives. And the big idea of the message, again, based on the lyrics, is that, folks can, get away with those demonstrations or civil disobedience rallies or protests and things like that in metropolitan areas or suburbs, but try that in a small town or in a rural area and see what happens. Again, these are the lyrics and the discussion that's from the song and the tension that's out there. So, what do these two people have in common? And the answer is Ubuntu. Ubuntu. So, natural question is, what is Ubuntu? It's actually not the software. I know there's a software platform out there called Ubuntu, and it's not the special font, although I did write that in the Ubuntu font just to have some fun with it there. But it's not that, it's something actually a lot bigger. Ubuntu is the African indigenous philosophy and way of life. This Nguni Bantu term is rooted in the belief that individual sharing creates a universal bond that connects all of humanity. And as you can see on the slide here, the big idea of Ubuntu is I am because we are. Now, Ubuntu was the overall mindset that informed the strategy for taking down apartheid in South Africa. And so this is Nelson Mandela. And I'll actually read this quote here, again, from Nelson Mandela. In Africa, there is a concept known as Ubuntu, the profound sense that we are human only through the humanity of others. That if we are to accomplish anything in this world, it will be in equal measure be due to the work and achievement of others. Now, there are many principles and expressions of Ubuntu, and here's how I like to sum it up. The first one here is humanity is communal. We're all connected to each other. The next one is that we are each other's keeper. And this is meaning that we're responsible with each other, to each other. And this begins with mutual respect. And the third one is we're better together. The power of teamwork, and this is fueled by mutual trust. And here we have Archbishop Desmond Tutu. He also worked with Nelson Mandela, and he shares an interesting perspective on Ubuntu from the Western perspective. And I'll go ahead and read it. Ubuntu is very difficult to render into a Western language. It speaks of the very essence of being human. You are generous and hospitable. You are friendly and caring and compassionate. You share what you have. It is to say, my humanity is inextricably bound up in yours. We belong in a bundle of life. Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And now to sum this all up with Ubuntu, the way I think about it is, and I'll read it, Ubuntu does not see individual differences in culture, background, circumstances, or physical characteristics as elements for division or opportunities to take advantage or consume others. Rather, Ubuntu is fully realized when individual differences are celebrated as elements of variety for connection. The outcome is the richest human experience possible. And so now when we think about allyship within the context of Ubuntu, allyship is an element within the broader framework for living a life of impact. And so now when it comes to mental health, I did a quick little exercise here. I Googled it just to see what I would find. And there are many benefits to living this way of life. It not only helps others, but it can also help you. And this is really quick. So from a mental health point of view, it can increase your dopamine and serotonin levels. Social health, it increases the mutual sense of belonging. Physical health, it can actually decrease cortisol levels. Spiritual health, it can actually help provide higher meaning and purpose beyond yourself. And so at the end of the day, can allyship personally help you? The answer is yes. And also for fun, since we're in an AI world, I put it in Bard as well, and I was impressed. It was good. Basically, as you can see, the prompt in helping others help you. And Bard said yes, and it said yes in all those other different drafts as well. And so when it comes to allyship, I found it in an unlikely place. And so the picture you see here is actually my high school, Charlottesville High School, Charlottesville, Virginia. My wife and I were back in town for a high school reunion. And for the event, there was a special social event that was happening at a football game, which happened the day before the main reunion activities was happening. It's like an icebreaker moment. And so this game was at a new high school in town. I had never been to it before. And also this is before, actively using Google Maps as well. And so I try to figure out where it is. We're driving around, we get lost and it's starting to run late. It's dark outside and I need to ask for directions. And so we're driving around and we stop at this small country store and the store looked closed, but there was a single truck in the parking lot that was out there. And so it looked very similar to this picture here. The truck and the person inside had all of the clues that made me nervous personally. There was a gun rack in the window, and he seemed to look like what we call as a good old boy. It's a southern term. So I was in a dilemma. I didn't want to disturb the man in the truck because who knows what would happen next. But at the same time, we're running late, and we're gonna, if we keep wasting time, we're probably going to miss the icebreaker event. So I had to take a risk. So I pull up beside the truck. I roll down the window and I ask for directions. And so the gentleman inside, he looks at us. He gets out of the truck, walks over to our car, and proceeds to give us the best directions ever. I was blown away because I didn't know what to expect, especially when he got out of the truck. But he just gave us the best directions. He was super specific. He was encouraging us as he was giving the details of the directions. He was like, if you get lost, just come on back and I'll help you even more. And I can even drive you over to where you're supposed to go. I was totally blown away. This person was an ally to me and my wife. Now, I don't know if his ally moment, happened in the moment or at some point earlier in life, but given the shared context and the history of Charlottesville, the slides that I showed you from earlier, this is the thing that I saw about him. He was willing to change his position to get a better point of view of someone else. And his actions were super inspiring. Instead of seeing a super predator, This man simply saw someone who was lost, needed directions, just like that. Granted, we had, different physical characteristics, backgrounds, things like that. He didn't get hung up in those things. He was simply an ally. He had information that we needed, and he was willing to help out and take action in that moment. And so, to summarize, when you practice allyship, I want to encourage all of you to keep the principles of Ubuntu in mind. Humanity is communal. We are each other's keeper, and we are better together. And it'll not only help others, but it'll also help yourself.